Hello everyone, it's June, and that means that May is over, and I'm here to do my May wrap up. I feel like I managed to read quite a lot in May, even though I was quite busy. It was very much in the latter half, I'll be honest, but I managed to finish 6 books in May, and I read a shit ton of manga. That is usually what I gravitate towards when I'm busy or in exams period or something like that, and I was in an exam period this month. I have handed in my last exam of my bachelor's degree, which is it feels great because but it also feels scary because I'm done with school, but I don't know what I'll be doing for the rest of my life. I don't have a job lined up, and I'm kind of in that purgatory space, floating in between, like trying to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the books. I'm only going to be talking about the novels that I read this month. I'm going to do a separate video for the manga. So let's just get right into it. Now, should I do them in a particular order or should I just do them willy nilly? I don't really know. I think that these are in no particular order, just so you know. The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, a classic, a gothic classic, and also my first Shirley Jackson. No, that's a lie. I did read We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I take that back. But this was haunting, as you can probably tell by the title, but it felt so alive, the house that is. We followed these people that are collected by this doctor that wants to do research on haunted houses, and he invites them to this place to stay for the summer. And there are mainly like four main characters that we follow. But I will say that the main character is Eleanor, and we follow her, and she arrives there, and they start researching the house, and it's just the atmosphere and descriptions in this book just leaps off the page. It feels like the house is around you, breathing down your neck, and it's creepy. So that was definitely my favorite part of this book was the descriptions of the house and how the house works and how it's alive and how it slowly kind of wraps its vines around you and pulls you in, even though you're not really noticing it. And throughout, we also get the relationships between the characters and their deeper, darker secret starts coming out to the surface. It kind of brings out the worst in them. And I really enjoyed it. I think you can kind of, or I don't know if that was the intention, but I kind of read it as a metaphor for depression. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that is kind of what I got out of it. Let me find my notes actually. One second. What's the point of taking notes if you don't uh, reference them in these moments? Let's see. What did I write? Yeah, and I think that the house also kind of brings out the child, the inner child of the characters. Like, it sort of brings Eleanor back to her childhood and to a bit thing that happened in her past, and we start kind of reflecting on that. And it's very fairy tale esque. I feel like it was creepy, but it felt so alive. So what I wrote is that it can be read as a metaphor for depression, question mark, because that is kind of what I got from it. I don't know if that was intention. Looming, creeping, and sucking you in, no matter how much happiness you try to force and how much you try to ignore it, it doesn't go away. That is kind of what I wrote. But my favorite part was definitely the descriptions of the house. It feels like it's kind of moving and creeping around in the corner of your eye. You can't really catch it, and if you turn your head, you can't see it anymore, but it's always there in your peripheral, and it makes everything, it's a bit crooked and on its head, and everything in the house kind of enters a new dimension, and it doesn't really make sense. So I did really enjoy that read, and I will definitely be reading more Shirley Jackson. I don't know which one of her two books that I read so far is my favorite. It's hard to say. They're kind of in even level right now. I think I need some distance from them and then reflect on them a bit more before I can tell. But I was The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Hazelthorn by C.G. Drews. This, I think I bought it on release day or something, or very close to release days because I was anticipating this, but then I didn't read it because I was not in the right mood, and I felt like this could be a new favorite, so I wanted to kind of put it off a bit and read it at the right time. So I have had quite a good track record with C.G. Drews. I have read 3 of her other books, I think. My favorite has definitely so far been Don't Let the Forest In, but this is kind of similar that it's kind of a botanical YA horror and it's queer. So it's got a similar concept in that way, but the setting and the root of the problems are quite different and the characters obviously. So sadly I think that maybe the concept of this was stronger than execution for me, honestly. And I felt like it was too similar to Don't Let the Forest In that I couldn't help compare it to Don't Let the Forest In. And since I read that one first, I think that I ended up loving it more. I think also the romance or the chemistry between the characters was better in Don't Let the Forest In than this one. So it was not bad, but I think I ended up giving it a 3.5 star, somewhere around there. I expected this to be a 5 star, so maybe I went into it with the wrong expectations. I don't know. I'm trying to not be. I'm trying to be a bit more harsher rater. I wanted to give it 4 stars originally, but I was like, I think it's lower than that actually, because it felt so disjointed in some ways, and a lot of the main part of this book is kind of the relationship between the two main characters. Have I given you the premise of it? I will come to it soon. But and it didn't convince me of their connection, to say the least. It felt a bit toxic as well, which might have been the point. But Hazelthorn, we follow this kid named Evander, and he is locked up in this old crumbling estate that is slowly being taken over by nature. It's got a big sprawling garden that is just wild. And he is kind of taken in by this old man. He's rich billionaire, and he's got family that is kind of banned from coming in this property. And he also has a grandson named, what's his name? Laurie. And Laurie and Evander, they're not allowed to meet anymore because the last time Laurie tried to kill Evander. So we follow as a murder take place, and Evander is set on trying to figure out what the fuck happened. And he also somehow ends up inheriting the estate, the money, everything, and this kind of brings down the family on him, and everyone is trying to kind of get in his good graces. And he slowly starts unraveling the mystery behind what happened that day between him and Laurie and his past, because after that day, his health, let's just say it was bad. He has no memories, he's been locked in, he's not allowed to go outside because of his very, very fragile health. So he's kind of been isolated from everything. And then obviously he meets Laurie as well. At first I like they can't really get over the past, but then Laurie kind of becomes his barrier between the rest of the family. And they start working together. And yeah, that's kind of it goes from there. So it's kind of got a nice out vibes in terms of like the inheritance, trying to figure out who murdered him and everything. But yeah, I for me it felt like the writing was too flowery in some places. It felt like it was too metaphoric. It tried to do too much, and then I felt like the characters and the relationship. Firstly, the characters were a bit shallow in some places, and the relationship, I didn't see the chemistry, so I was not on board with it. And when you have those things, which is kind of the main drivers in this book, and you're not connecting with them, that kind of instantly makes you not like it as much. But I think that the atmosphere was great. I love like botanical horror, nature horror, those kind of things, and I thought that the descriptions of that was great, and the house and the gardens and mystery and everything was good. But yeah, I was not sold, and but I will still be reading everything else that this author puts out. And I guess I can say it's queer, but it's also it can be read as a metaphor for queerness and being different and how isolated you feel and the anger and the explosion of emotions that comes from that. And I did really enjoy that aspect of it. And I did read Evander as kind of neurodivergent character, more of a autistic leading character maybe, and I did like those aspects of it. So that was Hazelthorn by C.G. Drews. Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto is a collection of two short stories. One is about 100 pages and the other one is about 40 pages. This was mid, in my opinion, sadly. So it very very inherently deals with grief, both of the short stories, and identity, finding yourself, and also about the constant in your life, how to move on after someone passes, how to come to terms with that and everything. And there's also some points that it deals with um transgender people. Now, the first short story, I didn't connect with any of the characters. I didn't really connect with the storyline, what was happening, anything. It had some beautiful lines, but it felt a bit, again, shallow. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but it was just meh for me. It didn't ignite any feelings in me. It didn't make me think. It didn't make me want reading or anything like that. I can't really put it into words, but I just didn't like it. And then we had the second short story, which was definitely better than the first one, but then again, it was like too short. I wanted more, and I got a bit emotional, but at the same time, it wasn't as profound as I wanted it to be, and that might be my fault. But I think that this is one Japanese fiction that you can skip. Is it Japanese? I think so. As you can see, I did tab a bit of it because there were some beautiful lines and stuff, but yeah, it's a bit mid. That was Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. There's two of them that I want to talk about together, so we're going to go on to Dolly by Susan Hill. This is the same author that wrote The Woman in Black, which was made into a very popular horror film, I think. At least I have watched it and I've heard a lot of people talk about it. But this is kind of a southern gothic horror novel. And the only thing that it truly has going for it is the atmosphere. It's got creepy descriptions of atmosphere of a haunting, and you feel something rustling behind you, but you can't pinpoint it. Every time you turn, it's gone. But you feel it watching you, and you feel it getting closer and closer and closer until it hits. So we follow kind of two different timelines. We follow this man. What's his name? Edward. He is going back to his aunt's house after she died, and he's to inherit it. But he kind of looks back on things that happened when he lived there one summer with his cousin, and the things that it did and the consequences it has in real time. Now, the characters, absolutely despicable. I couldn't stand them, which I think is the point. But it's also about the things that you do in the past, how it comes to shape your future, and kind of karma, and it comes back to you, and maybe in places you don't want it to. So it's got that going for it. And it was just, again, didn't connect the characters, didn't see the point of the story. It was great atmosphere, there's great descriptions, but I wanted more. I wanted to be more creepy. I wanted more of a plot, and I didn't really see the point of the story, which is why I didn't really enjoy it that much. That was Dolly by Susan Hill. Okay, the next two I want to talk about kind of together, but that is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood and The Right Wing Woman by Andrea Dworkin. The Handmaid's Tale. Do I need to present this one? Do I need to tell you anything about it? I think a lot of people have heard about this one. It's like a modern classic, a modern work of feminist literature. But we follow Offred. She lives in the state of, was it Iliad? Gilead, sorry. Which is a totalitarian regime that has risen, and it's very, very heavy on the religion. And she is a handmaid, which is basically a breeder. She's there to make kids, and she's being passed around to household to do her duty. And it's about how they got there. She reflects on the past and on the signs that she saw and how it all came to be. And she reflects on her place in this new society, how there are still bad things, and how they think about themselves, and how she needs to navigate this new thing. There's a lot of good commentary on today's society, and I mean the time it was written, which is the past, but still so much many things relevant today, which how they view women, how they say one thing but they're corrupt and they do something else because it's good for them, but they don't want others to have that same privilege, and how women take a stance to save themselves and but by putting down other women, it's very, very great commentary and so many important things, and it's also so short, and it's such, you can see how we can get there. It's realistic, which is scary, but it opens up your eyes and your worldview a lot. That was The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. And then I also read Right Wing Woman by Andrea Dworkin at the same time, which these two, such a good companion pieces. This is a nonfiction about right wing women. Why are so many women supporting the right wing movement and the right wing leaning politics when it tries to bring them down and when it stands against so much of women? And why do they support it? Why do they support something that tries to put them down and tries to hurt them in a way? And this brings up so many different points of view, so many good points, and it looks at bad things on both sides of the political spectrum and really, really smacks it into your head what the thing is. And I love this. I agree with a lot of things, disagree with some of them. Again, this was written in the 70s, 80s, so it's a product of its time, but you kind of understand the women at the end that are kind of right wing leaning, but you kind of come to love and hate both sides of the political spectrum, especially the men and the system that is set up, because it's the system of the patriarchal society that leads to all of this. They are just trying to survive. They're just trying to protect themselves, and those positions they put themselves in is the safest for them. And it was just such a great read, especially alongside with the Handmaid's Tale, because so much of what she talk about in here is reflected in the Handmaid's Tale, and the things that she talk about and critiques in here is how we get to here. So it was such a good companion piece. I took my sweet, sweet, slow time with it because I kept thinking, and it kept being hard hitting and emotional, and it just felt so real. So that was Right Wing Woman by Andrea Dorkley. So that was the 6 books that I read in May. I'm very happy with this. And seeing as I don't have anything really to do in June, I'm going to read a lot more, hopefully make some more videos. So stick around for that if you're interested, and please give this one a like and subscribe if you want more like this, because it will really help me. So thanks so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.